Hi, and welcome to my oral presentation on the 20th century transformation of the United States Agricultural Corps. My name is Isaac Smith. My presentation is going to focus on topics found in Chapter 12 of the Regions and Landscapes of the United States of America and Canada. In the beginning of the 1800s, the government began to allow settlers into the area now known as the Agricultural Corps. The first settlers became farmers out of necessity to feed their family and their livestock. These farms were small, diverse, and non-specialized, having many different crops and a complete reliance on animal labor. Because of this specialized nature of crop production, most families could only raise enough food to feed themselves. The golden era of agriculture that defines the Agriculture Corps began in the early 1900s. The Agricultural Corps spans over Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, Nebraska, Kansas, Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, and Michigan. Its main production crops are wheat, corn, and soybeans, as well as raising livestock. The humid continental climate allows for great conditions for growing that include moderate rainfall and humidity. The population in the Agricultural Corps includes a majority of white European with specialized farms. The main mode of transportation for the Agricultural Corps is its rivers and the Great Lakes. This offers quicker and convenient transportation of all different crops to different areas, including the oceans, to be sent out overseas. The Corn Belt includes western Indiana, Illinois, Iowa, Missouri, eastern Nebraska, and eastern Kansas, and are dominated by a majority of soybean and corn production. Corn has been the main production crop since the early 1850s, and by the 1950s, traditional maize had completely been replaced by hybrid corn. The corn production of the Corn Belt is the main source of food for all livestock in America. 40% of all corn production worldwide. As seen in the picture, hybrid corn versus non-hybrid corn from the 50s. Technology was the biggest contribution to the Agricultural Corps. The first major contribution to the Agricultural Corps was the production of the first mass-produced farm tractor, the Waterloo Boy Model R single-speed tractor, invented by John Furlich in 1914. His company then went on to become the famous John Deere, which is commonly used today. John Deere then invented the steel plow in 1937. This made mud and trudging through the soil a lot easier on farming equipment. Another increasing technology that was a significant contribution to the Agricultural Corps was the invention of no-tillage agriculture. Instead of using a steel plow that's digged into the ground, discs were used instead of plowing. This maintained soil moisture and allowed for closer planting of crops, which also increased the production and overall supply and profits made from the crop. The genetic modification and the hybrid qualities of the new crops in the middle to late 1900s, as well as new availability in chemicals and fertilizers, increased growth and life expectancy, as well as overall supply and production per square foot in the agricultural core. And by the 1970s, mechanical harvesting of crops had completely replaced the manual labor harvesting of the early 1900s. As seen in the picture, one of the first disc plows and first tractors used in the early 1900s can be seen. In the agricultural core today, specialization is the name of the game. There is now a small number of large specialized farms instead of the early 1900s where there was a large number of small unspecialized farms. There is also a decreased necessity for manual labor as technology and farm equipment has evolved. This increase in a small number of large farms also increases the number of consumers and allows for individuals who may have been farming in the 1900s to seek non-farm occupations. In the 2000s, not everybody needs to be a farmer in order to eat and provide meals for their family. Specialization has allowed a small number of farms to provide food for a large number of families. And because of this, since the 1900s, the number of farms has decreased by 63%. As seen in the graph, as the average farm size increases, the number of farms decrease. This is from a U.S. poll from 2008 to 2015. In the 1900s, close to half of the population lived in rural areas. This is not the same as today. In 2014, less than a fourth of the population lived in the agricultural rural areas that lived in the same areas in the 1900s. This population has moved to more urban areas where work can be found in non-farming occupations. Specialization is the key to the agricultural core and is seen in the exports graph in this presentation. America's exports have increased when our total consumption as a country hasn't increased nearly as much. This increases the need for specialization farms to provide food for more than just the agricultural core inhabitants. It needs to produce enough food for the whole world. A recent trend has been seen in the agricultural core as environmentally friendly organic foods have been increasingly popular. So has the specialized farms in that area. This concludes my presentation on the agricultural core from the 1900s till now. These are my references that I used. I tried to find the most scholarly and reputable sources I could in order to provide a concise and informative report on the agricultural core. Thank you for listening.